Hello, guys. Welcome back to the Big Screen Show. My name is Victor,
I'm Alex.
and we're back, just us two, bringing you guys a video on something we're very excited about, actually. Netflix's own original series, Scott Pilgrim Takes Off. Man, anime adaptation of the one and only Scott Pilgrim with the original cast. I mean, my goodness, our mouth was watering when this got announced, and as the trailers were coming out and the little snippets and stuff like this. So we were very excited to watch it, and we're very excited to bring you guys this video. So first things first, let's give some general thoughts. Alex, what were your general thoughts on Scott Pilgrim Takes Off?
Oh my gosh. I could literally, when it first got announced, I could not believe it because the returning cast, the actual creator of the Scott Pilgrim comic series, along with Edgar Wright, who was the director of Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, it was like a match made in heaven. In fact, they paired with a Japanese animation studio to make an anime. That blew my mind, but like, I say this theory was great. Honestly, this is like probably like an example of a really good remake where it's made itself like really fresh and new, but still kind of sticks to like the main type of core of what is Scott Pilgrim, really.
Right.
Because like honestly, the movie is like a 9 out of 10 for me. Because like great acting performances by the returning actors from the actual movie. Its animation was like pure outstanding, especially when it got down to like the action scenes or even like its comedic moments. Like every episode had me laughing or smiling throughout every single instance, especially when it got to like the very last episode, which felt like, which you can tell just went like full anime, which I honestly love since you know me, I'm an anime otaku. I love anime. It's my life.
Yes, this guy right here is the Big Screen Show's in-house king of anime. Dude loves it, so he is who we defer to anytime anime is involved. But continue.
Loud and proudly. But yeah, I gotta say, it basically made itself a really good, unique take on the story that we know from Scott Pilgrim, because even said in interviews how like by both Brian Lee O'Malley and Edgar Wright that this wasn't going to be a direct adaptation or anything from either like the movie or the comics, where it's going to be like its own story. Man, yeah, it real because like the very first episode, it felt like it was going like the main way as you do from like the movie or the comics. If any of you guys have read it, you really should. It's great. But by the end of the episode, it just makes a complete turn and shift where the story is completely different. And it's shocking for a moment, but then as I went along watching it, I was like, okay, I see what you're doing. This actually makes a lot more sense and actually feels like progressive in like the right way and doesn't feel very preachy, but still kept consistency with like the tone and what Scott Pilgrim is from both like the movie and the comics. And I thought it was like amazing, as well as getting like more elaboration and in-depth development for like the main character, from like Ramona, the Scott Pilgrim, and especially with like the 7 evil exes for this whole series. So honestly, the movie was like, the series was like so great to me, where I literally binged it all literally within 4 hours. So I gotta give it a 9 out of 10. Amazing.
Yes. Yeah. No, I couldn't agree with you more. Honestly, I on the other hand am not the biggest anime fan. Not for any particular reason, just simply, you know, there's so much content to watch these days, and when it's time to pick something, I usually don't lean towards anime. I've seen a couple, but not a lot. Definitely not as much as this guy right here. So to me, it was very exciting because I'm a huge Scott Pilgrim fan. I love the movies, and I read some of the comics, not all of it though. But I just love the story, and I love the characters as a whole. So I was definitely very excited, and the fact that it was getting turned into an anime was very exciting for me because, again, obviously, as you could probably guess, he's in my ear constantly about watch this anime, and like I said, I just never get around to it. So for it to be something kind of like, for me, where it's like a world that I want to get more into but just haven't yet, meaning anime, and a world that I actually am really a big fan of and really love, Scott Pilgrim, to kind of join forces, it was like the perfect concoction for me. And man, I had a great time. 8 episodes, about 27, 28 minutes each, so it's not very long. And I did the same thing. I binged it in 4 hours. It was phenomenal, and it's just a fun time. It's just the fact that we have the original cast from the movie back in to voice all their characters and their roles from the movie. Literally perfection of a decision, like couldn't have been done any other way. Honestly, it wouldn't. I guess they could have done it, but it would definitely have not have gotten the point across like it did. And you know, the changes that they made were definitely big changes, but definitely welcome. And you know, you kind of just learn to like live in this like thing that's kind of occurring in this world that it's kind of creating for itself. And you know, you just go along for the ride basically. And you know, I really enjoyed it. For me, it's an 8 out of 10, but like 8.8 type vibes, like just short of a 9. So, but we know we don't do half points here, so it's a 8 for me. But still loved it. 2 thumbs up for both of us. If you haven't seen it, definitely go watch it. And yeah, but if you don't know how things work around here, we give you guys general thoughts without spoiling anything, just so you guys get a gist of how we feel about the topic. And now we're about to dive deep with some details, with some spoilers. So this is your spoiler warning. You have been warned. If you haven't seen it yet and you want to keep it spoiler free, go ahead and click off the video and go ahead and go watch that. And also, we try to bring you guys videos like this at least once a week, sometimes more. So if you want to stay tuned for that, please make sure to click that subscribe button, because it really does help us out. And if you like videos like this, and specifically this one, please make sure to let us know by hitting that thumbs up button down there, because again, it really does help us out. Now, let's just get into it. I mean, it opens up with, like you said, we're pretty much going step by step with what we know and what we've seen before.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of episode 1, right as Scott Pilgrim is about to engage in his first fight against the first Evil X,
Matthew Patel,
Scott Pilgrim's dead.
Nah, he just gone.
He just dies.
Like flash of light, coins on the ground. It looked like Scott Pilgrim had did he just get killed in his first fight in the first episode?
The first episode. So already off rip, and then boom, episode ends. So I'm left with my my mouth is wide open.
Jaw dropped to the floor. Right.
And so you're already seeing the changes, right? Because up to that point, everything's pretty much step by step. So, you're cruising along, and now this big twist comes in. And so this obviously is different from what we have seen before, and we go down this road where basically Scott Pilgrim is dead, and it's up to now Ramona Flowers to basically, for lack of a better term, crack the case on who killed Scott and, where he is at. Because in the following episode, we find out he's not really dead. He went through a vegan portal and is somewhere else, because he basically showed up in Ramona's dream, and that's how she knows that he is still alive. And so we go through the next 5 episodes with Ramona basically crossing off the list of all the evil exes. She goes up to them, basically questions them, like, hey, where's Scott? How do you know? Or do you know anything about his death, or where he could be? And we go down this kind of journey with her. And so for the next 5 episodes, she is at the forefront, right? And that already, to me, again, I am fully aware there's going to be changes. I'm fully aware we're not supposed to be telling the same story. And again, I'm not saying that the creative choice to go down this route for the plot is a negative. No, not at all. I just find it, I guess, a little disappointing that for 5 out of the 8 episodes, we don't get Scott Pilgrim really, in the forefront of it all, because, the show's called Scott Pilgrim, so we want to basically have him be more present. And so that to me was a little bit disappointing. But, that's kind of in part why my score is probably a little lower than yours. But to be honest, it's really not a big deal. I still had a great time, and it makes total sense. The plot went amazing. If you're going down that route, it went well. It went perfectly, actually. They wrote it really well, and I don't think necessarily it's a negative. Just for me, it was kind of like a, aw darn, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I will say, I think for sure what we all agree with, and whether you've seen this series, is that we literally had no idea on how this plot was really going to go. None of us could have made any prediction it was going to go like this.
Definitely.
But I do agree, when I first saw the episodes after episode 2, for 2 episodes of No Scott Pilgrim, and we all focused on Ramona and everything, I understand. I think I finally understood what it was trying to do exactly. Where it was basically going more exploration into Ramona and more in depth development on the evil exes themselves,
Right.
and how basically it kind of like created like a reconciliation where the breakup was like nasty because like. With all the exes, Ramona basically just like left them with like no explanation, no wording, and we don't really. And even in like the comics, even like the actual movie, there's really nothing beyond the evil exes besides that they're evil exes that just have to be fought and defeated.
Right.
But this series actually
like backstory.
Yeah, they give them more human development and greater attachment.
Yeah.
They're still entertaining and very funny, but this gives them like a much more development and gives them more exploration to the types of people that they are before, like when they were with Ramona, and then after, and then kind of creating like a peace between them, like because like after leaving like that, there's some mixed feelings, but it also shows that even though they're called the evil exes, they're not really bad people.
Right.
They're just kind of I mean, some of them
they're
are
just
like,
upset.
Yeah, they're just upset. But I mean, they're not evil, but like oftentimes they're a bit like they're not that good. They can be like kind of harsh, but they're human. But the series gave some time between them and Ramona to kind of like make peace with everything, which honestly was very progressive in a very smart way. Because it may make sense that they made Ramona the forefront, because without Ramona, there would honestly be no whole Scott Pilgrim plot within it.
Yeah. So, Ramona's huge.
Because it always comes back to Ramona. And
honestly,
it makes sense to me, because I think it's also the fact that the writing was done really well.
Yeah, it was.
Even despite having very good comedic moments, but still time for things to get like real and serious, especially balancing like the exaggerated like action and hype, which is again a major thing for like the Scott Pilgrim comics, as well with Edgar Wright himself for like his movies that he's done. Mm-hmm. So those were like a really good balance and form that just makes it like better than I actually thought it was going to be. Yeah. With this diverging of plots.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. No, I totally agree. It definitely opens up for that human feel to these people that before were kind of just 2-dimensional, where now you're opening up a more 3-dimensional kind of space to them, and giving them a little bit more depth. So I definitely agree. I think it was, if you're gonna go down that route, this is how you do it, and I think it was done really, really well. So
exactly.
And then
and again, we still got like some major action scenes.
Oh yeah.
Throughout every episode, because it did not disappoint.
Definitely some great action scenes, some great comedic moments. Actually, lots of great comedic moments actually, and I mean, I cannot speak highly enough about this animation. I mean, truly, it was just done perfectly, if anything. Like, it was honestly, it was perfect. I loved every bit of what I was seeing on my screen. And so, like I said, that's basically the gist of the plot. And as you move forward, we basically find out that there was the big bad, for lack of a better term, the person that took Scott in this vegan portal that made it seem like he died, was actually Scott Pilgrim himself.
Yeah, like the old Scott Pilgrim from the future.
Old Scott Pilgrim from the future. He took him. Scott Pilgrim went and spent some time with him in the future. Basically because as life went on for Scott, it turns out that something went wrong and something went sideways between him and Ramona.
They got divorced.
And so therefore he was basically salty and like really hurt about it, and basically went back in time to try to stop himself and give himself kind of diverge his life plot to where he never really gets with Ramona and never marries her. So it was like that kind of thing. So I thought that was pretty funny, honestly.
That was crazy, because especially in like episode 7 where we find out about why and how old Scott took like past Scott.
Yeah,
it was funny because it showed like this whole thing with like VR, but like Nintendo style.
Yeah,
and he was showing like everything that happened that was gonna happen if Scott hadn't been pulled into like the vegan portal in the future.
Yes.
Yeah, it was basically just like all the thing that it was showing was like literally every type of event that was from the actual comics themselves.
Really?
Yeah, literally everything. Cause like seriously, it was pretty cool. And also surprisingly, yeah, it even showed that him and Ramona got married, and it's like, but like, because
which the idea of that made me very excited.
Yeah,
because we never really got that, kind of resolution in the movie of like what happens, later on in their lives or whatever.
Yeah.
But the fact that you kind of get confirmation they got married, that kind of made me happy and warmed my heart. But obviously, things didn't go very well, so then it's like sadness.
Yeah, but it also shows like the main point that it still kind of keeps true to what the whole thing with Scott Pilgrim was, because by Brian Lee O'Malley's own statement, Scott Pilgrim is basically an insert character of himself, because like he made the comics in his 20s and he finished this whole series himself while he was in his 20s, because like literally Scott Pilgrim's life was Brian Lee O'Malley's life. Minus like the whole like super evil X's and like the power ups and things like that.
Right.
But like it was everything. It also shows like how even like the writing of the comics kind of evolved Brian Lee O'Malley into like him still writing comics, and also it was more involved in like the writing process in creating this series, because as it shows, like Scott Pilgrim is like, he sucks, he's a loser, and he was dating a high schooler, which that's
lame.
Yeah, that's bad. Can't be doing that.
Right.
So, but it also shows, even older Scott Pilgrim is like a loser who basically detracts and like loses his development after a whole messy divorce and everything with Ramona, and then he tries to basically do the same thing for Scott by pulling him out from a situation where he could have fallen in love and actually matured and developed as a character, but decided that he's saving him from like a mistake, even though like during his time it wasn't a mistake, because he found he was gonna find love and like able to like make himself a better person.
Yeah.
So like literally, and then we find out episode 8 that literally Scott literally has to fight himself, which is again his main thing of like basically, which again even in comics,
because he thought he was gearing up for a battle with the evil X's,
but they were like, nah, we're all good, we chill like, now,
we're good,
we don't got no beef with you no more.
Because again, throughout those 5 episodes where it was just focused on Ramona, it was almost like therapeutic to everybody, and kind of everything got hashed out in a way, and so we're kind of like past that. So it's like once Scott came back into the fold, or OG Scott came back into the fold and was ready to fight the evil X's, they didn't want to fight anymore.
Yeah, they were good.
So then what's the big finale? What's the big final fight? It's OG Scott Pilgrim, or I guess our current time Scott Pilgrim, fighting an even older Scott Pilgrim that had been like basically working on himself in the sense of combat for like 10 years. So he was like huge and buff and jacked and just like this martial arts specialist. And
yeah, that was the full anime stuff I was telling you about off camera, where literally even older Scott was literally training himself for 10 years in him and Wallace's old apartment, where basically spent 10 years basically improving his fighting abilities, his power sets and everything, and just giving like this huge major glow up power up and stuff like that. That's the anime stuff that the final episode went hard on, and I just loved every second of it.
Yeah,
it was amazing, because it also shows, because again in comics Scott had to face himself, Nega Scott, which is basically like all the stuff that he did that they tried to like reject and run away from, because in the comics Scott Pilgrim was basically kind of avoiding all the bad stuff from relationships, where like he was like a major at fault for most relationships and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So like it showed that he was very sucky and never did the right thing. So him facing Nega Scott head on was basically accepting that and trying to improving himself and like trying to get Ramona back and everything. Mm-hmm. So again, the anime takes that part of the concept, but does it by actually facing an older version of himself that basically was like the Nega Scott version of himself, like from the comics. So again, Scott is still facing himself, and basically by the end he gets to Ramona and they start a nice healthy relationship, and basically him and his friends, including Knives that he was cheating on, basically became good terms and basically got on good terms.
Yeah. Yep.
So basically the anime really did keep true to basically what the core concept of Scott Pilgrim was. And again, also shows a good development of Brian Lee O'Malley as a writer and as a writer.
Yeah. Yeah, no, he definitely everybody shines in this. I truly think everybody did a great job in their task and their role, and it came out to be such a great time. It's just fun. It's just straight up fun. So I love it. I love it. Lastly, before we get out of here, let's talk what our favorite episodes are, or our favorite episode is. For me personally, episode 1 is my favorite. I just love because like it's just kind of cool seeing that, like, you know, like I said, we're going through basically the same steps as we had before in the comics and in the movie and stuff. So it keeps it kind of really true to everything we've known of Scott prior to this iteration. And so I really love that. And then you have that big twist at the end where he dies, and you're just like, what the heck is going on? So for me personally, the first episode's my favorite. But what about you?
My favorite episode was episode 3, because that's where it gives like most shine to Scott Pilgrim's friends. Where, like, you know, afterwards when they still think he's dead, but they're still kind of like moving on. It also, because it gets more focus on Kim, especially since like Ramona's trying to investigate who might have kidnapped Scott when she finds out that, you know, he's not dead, he was just taken. And we find out that, you know, Kim used to date Scott back in high school. And then basically gives like a whole flashback and montage, which again is actually from the comics. It's again from the comics, especially from her story of when he first met Scott, and then her being kidnapped by a rival school and Scott having to fight to save her. Cool. Very nice romantic moment. Yep. But also it just shows like how like Kim's personality, it still has like probably some affection feelings for Scott, but it's like learning to like I've like moved on from that. And, you know, still be able to be friends with them, including be like in a band together, which again pretty good. And also shows that like Kim is still like a good fan favorite for people, including in the comics. Yeah, constantly. Definitely. Yeah, and then of course we get to basically where Ramona fights with her fourth evil ex, Roxy. Because like then the whole fight is basically them going through like these different genre of movies inside the video store. Yeah, where Kim was working. TV.
And it was funny when Kim was like changing the channels.
Yeah,
and, like,
she was.
The place they were fighting just kept changing. I thought that was, like,
and she basically like paused and reversed the fight scene. Yeah. And then basically when Roxy and Ramona had gotten out of the TV, she basically went to Kim, took the remote control, and they just started slicing up with her sword. Yeah, it was hilarious.
I love that scene.
But then we also got to see more in depth of like Roxy and Ramona's relationship back when they were in college, like some good big flashbacks. But also we finally got to the point where I finally understand where the series was going, where Ramona literally told Roxy, "I'm sorry," and for leaving the way I did, and it's like, okay, yeah, this is some really good, healthy, good kind of stuff.
Yeah, like, that was like the first episode where she hashes something out, and she like they fully put it to bed. They were hanging out after everything.
Yeah, they were just chilling. Yeah. Everything. But also, again, I also liked it because it was also the time where Roxy and Kim chose to kiss, because Kim was like, I don't know. Then it's like, okay, I'm just gonna check and see.
But there were no sparks.
Yeah, no sparks. Because like even in the comics, it was kind of a thing where I thought like Kim might have been bisexual a little bit, but I think this might have been a good confirmation for that one, because you because reading the comics, you kind of get the vibe where Because I thought it was really good. I really liked the scene stuff like that.
That episode. That episode's definitely a solid one.
Yeah. Plus, again, it also shows the series also does a good job with supporting characters. Because young Neil, he basically the dude was basically kind of felt like a stoner, but he was just kind of chill about everything. He even thought he wrote a script about the plot of Scott Pilgrim versus the World, which again was basically a meta on like literal Scott Pilgrim versus the World.
Oh, what's very meta.
Which I thought was good, because he even had like a director called Edgar Wrong, which you know from like is basically from like the director of Scott Pilgrim versus the World, Edgar Wright, which I thought was even more funny.
Yeah, super meta. For sure.
Yeah.
No, I definitely think they did a great job at giving, since they were bringing back the original cast, and maybe in this situation not all of them would be so prominent, especially because they're just doing voice work and not showing their faces. I think they did a great job at least giving everybody their nice little pocket and nice little window to shine.
Yeah.
You know?
Because even, I think, plus in the anime, Knives' character, I think, has probably had, like, the best development out of all the different versions from, like, comics and the movie. Because, like, she basically inserted herself into Scott's friendship and bands, but then she kind of became like literally one of the guys. Because even in the comics, she was still inserted into the group, but like she was still just kind of like heavily into Scott and was kind of stalkish a little bit. But then as it got to like close to like the final two volumes, she kind of matured and was able to get over Scott. But for this one, she like literally progressed and got over him by like being around everybody and like, you know, inserting herself, learning music and everything. So really good, progressive, healthy way. So I honestly think this might be like the best version of Knives that I've seen.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. So the verdict is very simple over here, folks. 2 thumbs up, 4 thumbs up, all the thumbs up. We love it. It's amazing. It's completely awesome. It's a fun ride. If you haven't seen it, definitely go check out Scott Pilgrim Takes Off, a Netflix original and an anime, and it's just fun. If you like the movie, if you read the comics, go watch it because you definitely won't be disappointed. And if you have never seen anything Scott Pilgrim, definitely go watch it because you'll love it.
You'll get some interest, and hopefully that'll get to watching the movie or reading the comics. Hopefully both. They're all complements of each other because Brian Lee O'Malley and Edgar Wright literally said they're basically complement each other. You can literally watch other different versions and get something out of it. Yes. And I personally agree. The way I like to think of it is, I like to think that Scott Pilgrim Takes Off is kind of based like alternate universe sequel version of the comics. Because like I can watch this series and go read the comics, and like it could still just fit together perfectly to me.
Yeah. It's all cohesive and it's all amazing and it's all a fun time. And so that is going to wrap it up for us on this video. Scott Pilgrim Takes Off. Go watch it. Simple as that. This is the Big Screen Show. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you like videos like this, we try to bring you guys videos like this at least once a week. So please make sure to subscribe so that you can be on board with us, so that you can watch all those videos that we're trying to bring you guys in the near future. And if you like this video, please let us know by hitting that thumbs up button down there, because that's how you let us know you like the video, and it does help us out. So with that being said, if you have seen Scott Pilgrim Takes Off, or if you haven't, regardless, get in the comments, talk to us, engage with us. We want to know about it. We want to know your thoughts. We want to know if you're going to watch it. We want to know why you won't watch it if you don't want to watch it. We want to know it all. Let's engage. Let's talk. But with that being said, this is the Big Screen Show, and we'll see you guys soon. Peace out.
Later.